Scary telling.
I woke up groggy and disoriented, unsure of where I was or what had happened. The last thing I remembered was being put under anesthesia for surgery, but this was not the body I recognized. I was in a new body, with new features and a different physical build. As I tried to process what was happening, a nurse entered the room and greeted me with a smile. She explained that the surgery had gone well and that I was recovering smoothly. She handed me a mirror to look at myself, and I was shocked to see a face that I did not recognize staring back at me. I wanted to ask more questions, to know how this had happened and what had gone wrong, but the nurse seemed rushed and preoccupied. She told me that the doctor would be in soon to check on me and left the room. As I lay there, trying to piece together what had happened, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was not right. I tried to think back to the surgery, to remember if anything unusual had happened, but it was all a blur. Over the next few days, I began to explore my new body and my new life. I found myself in a luxurious suite with all the amenities I could ask for, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was living someone else's life. It was like I was wearing a mask, trying to pretend that everything was normal, but underneath, I knew that something was wrong. One night, as I lay in bed, I heard a strange scratching sound coming from the closet. At first, I dismissed it as the house settling, but then it grew louder. I got up to investigate and opened the closet door to find a hidden passageway. Curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to explore the passage. It led me to a dark, damp room filled with strange objects and symbols that I didn't understand. And then I saw a photograph of myself before the surgery. Next to it was a note written in an unknown language. It was a warning, and I could sense that whatever was happening to me was far more sinister than I could have ever imagined. I knew that I needed to find out more, to understand what was happening to me and why. But the more I searched, the more confused I became. How could this have happened? Who was behind it? And most importantly, how could I ever get back to my old body? As the days passed, I became more and more obsessed with uncovering the truth. I began to feel like a stranger in my own skin, unable to trust anyone, and constantly looking over my shoulder. I knew that I was in over my head, but I couldn't stop myself from searching for answers. The only thing I knew for sure was that my new life was not my own, and I was determined to find out why. After discovering the hidden passage in my closet, I couldn't stop thinking about what I had seen. I knew that I had stumbled upon something that I wasn't meant to find, but I couldn't resist the urge to investigate further. I spent the next few days researching the strange symbols and objects that I had seen in the hidden room. I scoured the internet and visited libraries, trying to find anything that could help me understand what was happening to me. As I delved deeper, I realized that the symbols were connected to an ancient cult that practiced dark magic. The more I learned, the more frightened I became. I couldn't believe that I had been unwittingly thrust into the middle of something so dangerous. One night, I found another note in the hidden room. It was written in the same unknown language as the first one, but this time it was accompanied by a map. The map led me to an abandoned building on the outskirts of town. I knew that I was taking a huge risk, but I couldn't resist the urge to investigate. I snuck out of the house and made my way to the building, heart racing with fear and excitement. As I entered the building, I heard a faint chanting coming from a distant room. I followed the sound and found myself in a large chamber filled with cult members, all dressed in black robes and holding candles. I hid behind a pillar, trying to stay out of sight, and watched in horror as they performed a ritual with a human sacrifice. The sight of it made my blood run cold, and I knew that I needed to get out of there before I was caught. I made my way back to my house, heart racing and mind spinning. I knew that I was in grave danger and that I needed to find a way to break the curse before it was too late. The next day, I contacted a paranormal investigator. I explained my situation to him and showed him the notes and symbols that I had discovered. He seemed skeptical at first, but as I told him more, his expression grew more serious. He confirmed my worst fears. I had been the victim of an ancient curse, one that had been carefully planned and executed by the cult. He told me that the only way to break the curse was to retrieve my old body and perform a counter ritual. I knew that it wouldn't be easy, but I was willing to do whatever it took to break the curse and get my life back. The investigator promised to help me, and we made plans to retrieve my old body from the cult's possession. I knew that it was risky, but I was willing to do whatever it took to break the curse and get my life back. The only question was, could we do it before it was too late? The next few days were a blur of research and planning. The paranormal investigator and I spent countless hours poring over ancient texts and deciphering the symbols in the hidden room. We mapped out a plan to retrieve my old body and break the curse once and for all. We knew that it wouldn't be easy. The cult was powerful and dangerous, and we were up against some of the most skilled dark magic practitioners in the world. But I was determined to get my old body back, no matter what the cost. As we dug deeper, we discovered that the cult had been searching for the perfect vessel for years. They believed that by finding someone with the right physical characteristics and personality traits, they could create the ultimate weapon, a body that they could control and manipulate at will. I couldn't believe that I had been targeted by such a nefarious group. I was just a regular guy, going about my life, and suddenly I found myself caught up in something so dark and twisted. The investigator and I came up with a plan. We would sneak into the cult's compound and retrieve my old body, all while avoiding the cult's minions and performing the counter ritual. It was risky, but it was our only option. I knew that I couldn't go on living in this body, pretending to be someone I wasn't. I needed to break the curse and reclaim my old life. We spent weeks preparing for the operation, gathering equipment and studying the cult's movements. We learned their schedules and routines, and we practiced the counter ritual until we could do it in our sleep. Finally, the night arrived. We snuck into the cult's compound, keeping to the shadows and avoiding detection. We made our way to the room where my old body was being kept, and I could feel my heart racing with excitement and fear. We retrieved my old body and made our way back to the ritual chamber, where we prepared to perform the counter ritual. But as we began the incantation, we were interrupted by the cult's minions. A brutal fight ensued, and I found myself fighting for my life. I used all of my skills and training to take down the minions, but it seemed like there were always more waiting in the wings. Finally, after what felt like hours, we were able to complete the counter ritual. The curse was broken, and I felt a surge of energy as I stepped back into my old body. As I looked around the room, I could see the horror and disbelief on the cult members' faces. They had never expected us to succeed, and I knew that we had won a great victory against them. But even as we made our escape, I knew that the battle was far from over. The cult was still out there, plotting and scheming, and I knew that I would always be looking over my shoulder, waiting for them to strike again. As we made our escape from the cult's compound, I knew that we were not out of danger yet. The cult was sure to come after us, and I was determined to be ready for them. I spent the next few days training and preparing for battle. I worked on my physical fitness, honed my combat skills, and practiced my magic. I knew that I needed to be at my best if I wanted to take on the cult and come out victorious. Finally, the day arrived. The cult had sent their minions after us, and we knew that we had to face them head on. We had set up a trap for them, luring them into an abandoned warehouse where we could take them on without being seen. As the cult minions entered the warehouse, we sprang into action. I used my magic to take them by surprise, casting spells that sent them reeling backwards. The investigator used his skills with a crossbow to take out the ones that got too close. But the cult minions were fierce fighters, and they were determined to take us down. They fought with a ferocity that I had never seen before, and I knew that we were in for a long and brutal battle. We fought for what felt like hours, taking turns attacking and defending. I could feel my energy waning, but I refused to give up. I knew that I couldn't let the cult win, not after everything that we had been through. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the last of the cult minions fell. We stood panting and sweating, looking around at the destruction we had wrought. But even as we celebrated our victory, I knew that we still had one more battle to fight. We needed to take down the cult leader, the one who had orchestrated this whole mess. We set our sights on the cult's headquarters, a massive compound in the middle of the city. We knew that it would be heavily guarded, but we were determined to take it down and put an end to the cult's reign of terror. As we approached the compound, I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. This was the moment we had been waiting for. We snuck in under the cover of darkness, taking out guards as we went. We made our way to the cult leader's chambers, where we knew he would be waiting for us. We burst into the room, weapons at the ready. The cult leader stood there, a smug smile on his face, but we were not intimidated. We knew that we had the power of good on our side, and we were ready to take him down. A fierce battle ensued, with the cult leader summoning dark magic and using all his tricks to try to defeat us. But we fought with everything we had, using all of our skills and training to take him down. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the cult leader fell. We stood there, panting and sweating, looking around at the destruction we had wrought. But even as we celebrated our victory, I knew that the battle was far from over. There were still remnants of the cult out there, still plotting and scheming. But I knew that we would be ready for them, no matter what they threw our way. For defeating the cult and putting an end to their reign of terror, I knew that my life would never be the same again. I had been through a harrowing experience, one that had left me physically and emotionally drained. But I was also grateful. Grateful that I had survived. Grateful that I had been able to break the curse and reclaim my old life. And most of all, grateful for the people who had helped me along the way. The paranormal investigator had become a dear friend and ally, and I knew that I could count on him whenever I needed him. And my wife had been my rock throughout the entire ordeal, supporting me and standing by my side. But even as I tried to move on, to put the past behind me, I knew that it would always be a part of me. I had been through something that few people could understand, and it had changed me in ways that I couldn't even begin to describe. I spent the next few weeks recovering, both physically and emotionally. I tried to go back to my old life, but it felt different somehow. I knew that I could never go back to the way things were before. I had been through too much, seen too much. But even as I struggled to find my place in the world, I knew that I had gained something valuable from my experience. I had a newfound sense of strength and resilience, a belief in myself that I had never had before. And as I looked back on everything that had happened, I realized that I had learned something important. I had learned that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope. That even when things seem impossible, there is always a way forward. And so I moved forward, one step at a time. I knew that there would be challenges ahead, but I also knew that I was ready for them. I had faced my demons and come out on top, and I knew that I could face whatever came my way. In the end, I knew that my experience had taught me something invaluable, that even in the face of darkness, there is always a light at the end of the tunnel. And that as long as I kept moving forward, that light would always be there, guiding me towards a brighter tomorrow.